What would you do if you saw someone attacking your disabled family member right in front of you? Would you freeze in shock, or would something primal take over? No one expects the HOA president to lose it so completely that they'd resort to throwing rocks at a disabled person, but that's exactly what happened to my family last summer. The consequences were swift, satisfying, and sparked heated debates among our neighbors. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Ethan, and my younger brother, Lucas, has cerebral palsy. Despite his condition, Lucas is the most uplifting person I know, always smiling, cracking jokes, and determined to live life fully. When our parents died in a car crash 3 years ago, I became his primary caretaker at 28. It wasn't the plan, but Lucas isn't just my brother, he's my best friend. Last year, we moved to Willow Grove, a suburban neighborhood marketed as peaceful, with manicured lawns and friendly neighbors. Our new home was perfect, single-story, wide doorways for Lucas's wheelchair, an open floor plan, and a big backyard where he could enjoy the outdoors. We invested heavily to make it accessible, wheelchair ramp, modified bathroom, the works. What we didn't know was that Willow Grove was under the iron grip of the Homeowners Association, led by Margaret Hensley. From day one, Margaret, insisting on being called Maggie while demanding absolute respect, made it clear she ruled the neighborhood. Mid-50s, with a flawless brunette bob and a wardrobe of overly formal blouses, she carried a permanent scowl, like she'd just caught a whiff of something foul. Within a week, we got our first HOA notice. Our wheelchair ramp, apparently, disrupted the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony. The letter, printed on thick ivory paper with the Willow Grove logo, demanded its removal within 7 days or we'd face fines. I called Margaret immediately, my temper rising. "This is Ethan Carter. I got a notice about our wheelchair ramp." "Yes, Mr. Carter," she replied, her voice syrupy with fake politeness. "All exterior changes require prior approval from the Architectural Committee. It's in the HOA covenant you signed." "My brother has cerebral palsy," I said, forcing calm. "The ramp is a necessary accommodation, protected by the Fair Housing Act." A pause. I could feel her irritation through the phone. "I see. Well, you still should have submitted the proper forms. I'll need medical documentation and detailed plans. I don't need to provide medical records for an obvious accessibility feature," I snapped. "That's a violation of privacy laws." Margaret sighed, all drama. "Fine. But in the future, Mr. Carter, remember rules exist for a reason. Willow Grove's property values depend on our standards." She backed off on the ramp, but warned us to comply perfectly with everything else. That should have been my first red flag, but I thought she'd come around once she met Lucas. I was dead wrong. Over the next few months, citations piled up for absurd violations. Our trash cans lingered too long after pickup. Lucas's adaptive gardening tools were unsightly. Our van's accessibility lift wasn't an approved vehicle modification. Each notice arrived on that same pretentious paper, a fresh stab of frustration. I tried diplomacy, attending HOA meetings in the community clubhouse, a sterile space with rigid rows of chairs. Margaret presided like a queen, her silent board members nodding along. A few neighbors offered sympathetic glances, but most were too scared of Margaret to speak up. Some even complained our medical equipment lowered property values. After Margaret suggested at one meeting that people like your brother might be happier in a facility, her tone dripping with disdain, I stopped attending. Instead, I dove into disability rights and fair housing laws, building a file of legal protections. A disability rights attorney confirmed Margaret's actions bordered on discrimination. I sent her a formal letter citing laws and demanding the HOA stop its harassment. Her reply? A single-sheet response. Willow Grove HOA does not discriminate. We expect all residents to uphold community standards. The harassment escalated. Violation notices appeared on our windshield or taped to our door. Margaret would stalk past our house, snapping photos and scribbling on her ever-present clipboard. Once, I caught her measuring our grass with a ruler. It was a 1/4 inch too long. The situation exploded on a sunny April Saturday. Lucas loved gardening. It was his therapy. We built raised garden beds he could tend from his wheelchair, painted to match our house, filled with flowers and herbs. That morning, Lucas was planting tulips, humming happily, while I weeded nearby. The breeze carried the scent of fresh grass, and for a moment, life felt perfect. Then I heard heels clicking sharply on the sidewalk. Margaret stormed toward us, clipboard in hand, her face red with rage. Her navy blazer clashed with the fury in her eyes. "Excuse me," she barked. "These garden beds violate HOA landscaping standards. They're not approved structures." I stood, wiping dirt off my hands, heart sinking. "Good morning, Margaret. These are adaptive tools for Lucas, covered under accessibility laws, like the ramp." Her eyes flicked to the beds, to Lucas, then back to me. "I don't recall approving this. You need written permission for exterior changes." "We submitted the form 3 weeks ago," I said, voice steady. "Certified mail. We have the receipt." "I haven't reviewed it," she snapped, voice rising. "Until it's approved, this is a violation. Remove them now." Lucas looked up, his joy fading. "But my flowers," Margaret shot him a look of pure contempt, like he was a stain on her perfect neighborhood. "Rules are rules," she said coldly. I stepped between them, heat rising in my chest. "Margaret, be reasonable. These beds aren't hurting anyone. They're well maintained, and neighbors love Lucas's gardening." "I don't care if the governor loves them," she shouted, her clipboard shaking. "No unapproved structures." Neighbors started noticing. Mrs. Larson, an elderly widow, paused her gardening to watch. The Garcias next door stopped washing their car, water pooling in their driveway. "Lucas has as much right to garden as anyone," I said, fists clenching. "And we have a right to a neighborhood that follows the covenants." Margaret shrieked. "Some of us care about property values." Lucas wheeled forward, his voice soft. "I'm sorry if the garden bothers you, Mrs. Hensley. The flowers will be pretty. You can have some." His kindness should have calmed her. Instead, it ignited her. Her face twisted, makeup failing to hide her venom. "I don't want your flowers. I want compliance." She jabbed a finger at Lucas, leaning toward him. "This constant special treatment is ridiculous. You think you can ignore our rules because of—" She gestured at his wheelchair, too disgusted to finish. Something in me broke. "That's enough," I roared, stepping closer. "Leave our property now." Margaret flinched but spotted a decorative rock border around the beds, smooth stones, another violation. What happened next felt like a nightmare. She grabbed a fist-sized rock, her knuckles white, eyes locked on the bed where Lucas sat. "If you won't remove these, I'll start for you," she screamed, and hurled the rock. It missed the bed. It hit Lucas's shoulder hard. He cried out, the sound ripping through me. Blood seeped through his shirt as he nearly tipped over. I caught his wheelchair, heart pounding. "Mrs. Larson," gasped. "Mr. Garcia," yelled. "What the hell?" Even Margaret froze, stunned by her own actions. Then, unbelievably, she reached for another rock. I dialed a number I knew by heart. "Uncle Tom, it's Ethan. I need you at Willow Grove now. The HOA president just assaulted Lucas with a rock, and she's threatening more." I hung up and glared at Margaret. "That was my uncle. He'll be here in 5 minutes. Stay where you are." Margaret's confidence wavered. "Your uncle? I'm calling the real authorities." She fumbled for her phone, hands shaking. I almost laughed at her audacity. The Garcias rushed over, Mrs. Garcia, a nurse, checking Lucas's shoulder. Neighbors gathered, drawn by the chaos. "You okay, buddy?" I asked Lucas, crouching beside him. He nodded, eyes teary. "It hurts." "Why does she hate us?" "Some people can't see past their rules," I said, heartbreaking. Sirens wailed, and a sheriff's car pulled up. Margaret's smugness returned, thinking backup had arrived. Then Sheriff Tom Bennett, my mom's brother, stepped out. At 6 feet 3 inches, with 20 years in law enforcement, Uncle Tom was a force. His badge gleamed as he scanned the scene. Lucas's bleeding shoulder, Margaret's phone, the crowd. "What's going on?" he asked, voice calm but firm. Margaret launched in, smoothing her blazer. "Sheriff, I'm Margaret Hensley, HOA president. These people violated multiple covenants and got aggressive when I addressed it." Uncle Tom's face stayed neutral. "Ma'am, I got a report of assault. Anyone injured?" I pointed to Lucas. "She threw a rock at my brother. He's bleeding." Uncle Tom crouched beside Lucas, examining the cut and bruise, his jaw tightening. "Did she throw this at you, Lucas?" Lucas nodded, wincing. "She was mad about my garden. I don't think she meant to hit me." Even in pain, he gave her the benefit of the doubt. Uncle Tom stood, eyes storming but movements controlled. "Did you throw a rock at this young man?" he asked Margaret. Her bravado cracked. "It was an accident. I was removing unapproved landscaping." He rolled in the way. "Mrs. Larson stepped forward, voice shaking. "That's a lie. I saw it from my porch." She threw it deliberately. "Mr. Garcia nodded. "We saw it too." She aimed at him. Uncle Tom pulled out a notebook. "Anyone else see this?" Hands went up. Margaret paled, realizing she was cornered. "This is ridiculous," she sputtered. "They violated 7 regulations." "Ma'am," Uncle Tom cut in, "HOA rules don't trump the law. You don't throw rocks at people, especially not disabled individuals." He turned to the crowd. "Mr. Garcia, Mrs. Larson, I'll need statements." Margaret tried to argue conflict of interest, but Uncle Tom shut her down. "I'm the sheriff responding to an assault. My relation to the victim means I'll be thorough." Mr. Garcia spoke up. "Our doorbell camera caught everything." Margaret's face went ghostly as she spotted the camera. Uncle Tom reviewed the footage, Margaret's aggressive approach, the argument, the rock hitting Lucas, her reaching for another. "Margaret Hensley, you're under arrest for assault," he said, cuffing her as he read her Miranda rights. "You can't be serious," she shrieked. "Over a neighborhood dispute? My husband knows Judge Larson." Uncle Tom didn't flinch. "I watched you assault a disabled man on video. Your husband's connections don't matter." As he led her to the patrol car, she begged neighbors to call her husband, but they stared back, stone-faced. Many had suffered her HOA tyranny for years. Uncle Tom paused. "Given this appears to be a bias-motivated crime against a disabled person, the DA will consider enhanced charges." Margaret's protests faded as the car drove off. Deputy Collins, a younger officer, approached. "We'll need to take Lucas to the hospital to document his injuries." "Ambulance, or you driving?" "I chose to drive." At the hospital, Lucas got stitches and x-rays. He stayed upbeat, joking. "With aim that bad, she must lose at darts." I marveled at his strength. Back home, neighbors gathered. Mrs. Larson hugged Lucas. "Mr. Garcia said, 'We're behind you.'" Margaret's made everyone miserable, but this crosses every line. Another neighbor, Greg, an HOA board member, announced an emergency meeting to oust Margaret. The support overwhelmed me after months of isolation. The aftermath was swift. Margaret was charged with assault and a hate crime enhancement for targeting Lucas's disability. Her lawyer husband tried to flex influence, but the video was undeniable. At the preliminary hearing, Margaret looked small, avoiding our eyes. She took a plea deal, probation, community service with disability organizations, anger management, and payment for Lucas's medical costs and damages. The HOA board removed her unanimously. Mrs. Garcia became president, revising rules to comply with fair housing laws. Margaret and her husband sold their house and moved away. I saw her once, overseeing movers, hiding behind sunglasses. Lucas's shoulder healed, but he was shaken, hesitant to garden at first. Then neighbors rallied. They brought food, helped expand his garden, and planted new beds. Mrs. Larson mentored Lucas in gardening. Greg helped approve our modifications. That summer, Lucas's garden bloomed vibrantly, his confidence restored. He shared bouquets with neighbors and Uncle Tom's team. At a neighborhood picnic, Lucas was honored as Mrs. Garcia unveiled accessible garden beds inspired by his. Our once cold neighborhood became a true community. One winter night, Lucas said, "I wonder if Margaret's learning from her community service, becoming better." I shrugged. "Some people don't change." He nodded. "I hope she does. Being that angry must be exhausting." His compassion floored me. By spring, Lucas planned an ambitious garden with neighbors' help, creating a beautiful, accessible space. His passion transformed our home and community, proving that breaking rigid rules can lead to something extraordinary. What do you think? Was justice served, or should Margaret have faced harsher consequences? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's debate. Is it ever okay to bend rules for the greater good, or do standards always come first? Like and subscribe for more real-life stories that spark conversation, and we'll see you in the next one.